Cue and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Cue and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Cue and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@cueandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, May 26. Celtic renew interest in 2 targets. Report by Stephen McGowan. Celtic have resurrected their interest in January transfer targets Kasper Hogg and Jacob Broom. The Parkhead Club are holding discussions with Martin O'Neill and other candidates for their managerial vacancy this week. Sean Maloney has been interviewed for a head of football operations role, a move first revealed by the Herald and Evening Times last week. And the new permanent manager's first job will be to sign off on a list of targets drawn up by the club's recruitment team since January. Danish striker Hogg drew strong interest in the winter window, with Bodo Glimt's Champions League heroics driving up the price. The 25-year-old caught the eye with high-profile strikes against Manchester City and Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan, and has already claimed 5 goals in 9 games since the resumption of the Eliteserien in April. Parkhead scouts have also continued to monitor the form of go-ahead Eagles playmaker Broom after a number of unsuccessful bids in January. The Dutch club feel the time is right to sell the 22-year-old £4 million Dane this summer. Go Ahead have also been made aware of a tentative interest from Celtic in their Belgian goalkeeper Jari de Busser. In the market for a replacement for Kasper Schmeichel, the 26-year-old is entering the final 12 months of his contract and is valued in the region of £2.5 million, reports Stephen McGowan. Evening Times Sport, May 26. Livingston striker receives shock World Cup call-up. Report by Mark Walker. Livingston striker Tete Yengi has won a shock World Cup call-up for Australia, despite never having represented the Socceroos. The 25-year-old was quietly shipped out on loan to Japanese side Machida Zelvia in January, after scoring just 2 goals in the league for Livingston. But he has been a revelation in Japan after scoring 3 goals in the Asian Champions League, which helped to take his side all the way to the final. He was on the receiving end of a headbutt in the final, where his team were beaten 1-0 by Saudi Arabian moneybags Al Ahly in extra time. Yengi still has a year left of his deal at Livingston and was retained by the club following their relegation. And he has been called up for the first time by Australia for their World Cup camp in Florida and could make their final squad, which will be announced later this week. Yengi has not represented Australia at any level in his career, unlike his brother Kusini Yengi. The Aberdeen striker has won 11 caps but a dismal campaign meant he was not in manager Tony Popovich's plans. But Yangi's call-up is bad news for Hibs striker Ante Suso, who has been released from the training camp and is set to miss out. Meanwhile, Cammy Devlin is looking to use his World Cup aspirations to get over Hearts' Scottish Premiership final day heartbreak. The midfielder is currently in a post-season camp with Australia as he looks to cement his place in Popovich's 26-man squad. He said, "It's hard because it was the worst day in my career in terms of how disappointing it was." Regarding Hearts' 3-1 defeat to Celtic, unjust is probably a word to use. We didn't deserve that, how it ended and everything, he told Sasha Pisani for Football 360. On a positive side, the best thing for me is that I'm lucky enough to come straight into a camp representing my country. That can change your mindset straight away, and you have no choice but to get back and perform at your highest level. That's been something really good. I feel so lucky I have that opportunity. I feel if I didn't have that and went on holiday or go back home, it would be really bearing on my mind every minute because of how disappointing it was. So lucky to get this opportunity. There's no bigger carrot at the end of this. So to come in here and have something else to focus on is really good. On dealing with the brutal end to the season, Devlin continued, "It was really tough the first couple of days, just because of how it all happened. Still, there are so many thoughts of what could have been different, what should have been different. I know there's a lot of feeling with the boys around Hearts and everyone around the place. A really undeserving finish to an amazing season with such a special club. Everything we did and achieved was incredible. I'm still not over what happened, but to have this shirt on and get the chance to train, represent my country, and hopefully at the end of it go to a World Cup, there's no better thing to look forward to." Evening Times Sport, May 26. St Mirren stand-in boss brands players legends. Report by Gavin McCafferty. St Mirren interim manager Craig McLeish believes his players will go down as legends after ensuring their Premier Sports Cup triumph was not followed by relegation in the same season. Marcus Fraser volleyed the only goal of the William Hill Premiership playoff final second leg to give Saints a 2-1 aggregate victory over Partick Thistle and extend their 8-year stay in the top flight. Said McLeish, "I am just delighted for the fans and the group of players. It has been frustrating because I feel we deserve more than we probably have had over the last few weeks in terms of our performances at times. Even throughout the season, VAR decisions going against us, and things like that as well. The list of injuries is just incredible that we've had. I spoke to the players before about wanting to make sure that they went down as legends in this club's history, and they deserve that. After what they've achieved this season, we did not want that black mark against them." McLeish now hopes talks with Chief Operating Officer Keith Lasley lead to him getting the job on a permanent basis after stepping up following the shock departure of Stephen Robinson and guiding the club to safety. And he continued, "I've just been in a really privileged position, delighted that Keith and the board gave me the opportunity to run with it. I stepped up at that moment and said to him, 'Trust me with it.' I'm glad he did. I would have loved to have avoided this type of situation, but there's been so many positives throughout my spell in charge. and whatever happens now is up to the club. I've loved every minute of this. The club know my stance on it, and me and Keith will have conversations over the next few days. Thistle lost out in the playoffs for a 5th year running, but manager Mark Wilson was proud of his players and the fans and said, "It will be a familiar feeling, I think, for some Thistle fans, but it was just something different about that with the fans and the connection again. It's been an incredible season. It was just fine margins, a set piece. I think we've dealt with set pieces quite well against St Mirren over the course of the tie, but we just switched off for a second, and it has cost us. I could not be prouder to be part of such a good group of guys and players, that they're all in it together. You know, you can see that they're really together. We gave it our all. Unfortunately, we just came up short." Report by Gavin McCafferty. Evening Times, May 27. Lifestyle. Delightful group as 25-year lease secured. Report by Morgan Carmichael. A community centre in Denniston will be leased for the next 25 years to a local community group through the People Make Glasgow Communities (PMGC) scheme. Members of the Contracts and Property Committee approved the lease of the Blue Vale Neighbourhood Centre to Blue Vale Community Club (BCC) at a price of £750 per annum. The PMGC programme allows local people, community groups, third sector and other organisations to have a greater involvement in the management of local venues. Blue Vale Neighbourhood Centre is made up of a ground floor which has rooms of differing sizes, a main hall, toilet facilities and a kitchen. It also has an outside MUGA for sport and recreational activity. A 25-year sublease between Glasgow Life and Milne Bank Housing Association, which operated the facility until its closure in 2020 as a result of coronavirus, has now come to an end. Blue Vale Community Club is a charity set up to provide holistic support to the wider community of all ages in the East End of Glasgow. Its aim is to create a safe, welcoming and inclusive environment where people of all ages can come together, feel supported, and develop new opportunities for growth. Blue Vale offers a broad range of services including youth work programs, sport and fitness activities, holiday provision, educational support, and community events that bring people together. Alongside this, it provides both practical and emotional support to families and individuals who may be experiencing hardship, social isolation, or other social challenges. During the meeting, Bailey Shonad Hoy said, "I am looking for some information on timescales. The paper notes that the transfer will take place after missives are included. Assuming that the paper is approved today, would that be 12 weeks from now, or is there more work that is required to conclude the missives?" A council officer confirmed that 12 weeks is the maximum amount of time it would take, and 12 weeks from the conclusion of missives. Councillor Ken Andrews said, "I'm always delighted to see these come through. These are really good things, and I thank the officers for the work they do with these community groups." Evening Times Sport, May 27. Rugby. Trailblazing Scottish referee tipped for big future. Report by Gavin Harper. Holly Davidson remains in contention to referee the United Rugby Championship, the URC Grand Final, despite not being in the middle for a quarter-final this weekend. And the trail-blazing official has been lauded as a special talent by the league's referee boss. "We consider Holly for any game," said South African former referee Tappe Henning. "She's what we call an any-game, any-time referee. It is the same for the playoffs." Davidson, alongside Rue Campbell, will assist Sam Grove-White for the quarter-final between Leinster and the Lions in Dublin on Saturday. Mike Adamson will complete an all-Scottish lineup as the television match official, the TMO. But Henning said that did not mean she was out of contention for the showpiece match, on the condition that Glasgow Warriors do not reach the final. Henning, who previously worked as match official commissioner at Scottish Rugby, added, "We need to work smart in how we appoint the referees. We review decision-making accuracy across set-piece, tackle area, penalty kicks and free kicks. Early reviews show we are broadly on par with last season, while TMO accuracy has improved significantly." Henning believes balancing youth with experience is vital for the long-term health of the competition, and he continued, "We are in the process of introducing younger and new referees into the competition. That naturally creates some variance in accuracy because they are gaining experience. We need to ensure the longevity of the URC by developing a consistent group of referees for the future. There are times that we park some of our top referees specifically for semi-final or final appointments. Holly is in that group that we will consider for our playoff games. If Glasgow are involved, Holly will not be involved in the final. If Glasgow are involved in the semi-final, she will not be involved in that semi-final, but she could be involved in another semi-final between two other teams. That would, he said, be reward for her performances this season, and he added, "She has been performing in the top 6 of our group. There's a lot of factors that play a role, but Holly is definitely in the mix with a lot of other good referees as well." Alongside Grove-White, the URC have appointed some of a new crop of officials to the quarter-finals this weekend. Welshman Adam Jones will take charge of Glasgow Warriors against Connacht, while Egan Cross is the referee for Stormers versus Cardiff in Cape Town. Andrea Piardi, who has been in the middle for the past 3 finals, is on duty as the Bulls host Munster. If she was to referee a grand final, it would be the latest in a long line of accomplishments for the former scrum half. Davidson from Aboyne became the first woman to officiate a men's Six Nations match earlier this year. Last year, she became the first female official to take charge of a major EPCR final when she refereed the Challenge Cup match between Bath and Lyon in Cardiff. She also won the World Rugby Referee Award and was selected for her second consecutive Women's Rugby World Cup final. Henning added, "She is talented, and we're really proud of all the barriers she is breaking down for female officials in the men's environment. She's really special to have in the URC." And the URC referee's boss, whose own career took in 21 test matches, believes there could be more to come. Davidson has previously stated her ambition to earn selection for next year's Rugby World Cup in Australia. With little over a year to go, Henning suggested she is on target for that aim when he said, "Holly is growing like all referees, and she's getting to a point where there's going to be lots of firsts in the years to come. Next year's a World Cup year, and we are excited about how strong Holly is in the international game." Report by Gavin Harper. Evening Times Sport, May 27. St Mirren's Fraser stunned himself with another big winner. Report by David Irwin. Marcus Fraser just had a feeling St Mirren would win and preserve their Scottish Premiership status. What he could not predict, though, was that he would score the winning goal. Even Fraser's son Maddox, who had been imagining the goal scorers in the back garden, did not have the centre-back getting on the score sheet. But Fraser would score the all-important winner, his first since scoring in the League Cup final triumph against Celtic in December, in the narrow triumph over Partick Thistle, to ensure St Mirren will remain in the top flight. "When I woke up in the morning, I thought we were going to win," said Fraser, who is the longest-serving player at St Mirren. "I did not have myself down for scoring, but I said in the dressing room, let's just find a way to win. I've not scored too many in my career, but this season I've managed to pop up with 2 big goals in the cup final and to keep the club in the division." My wee boy asked so many questions. He was out the back with his St Mirren strip on, scoring goals, and I think he had Micah Mandarin scoring. I didn't hear my name once. I was probably at the bottom of the list. Seeing him at the end was brilliant. It's probably why you do stuff like this, to make them happy. Having avoided the drop, St Mirren players from the 25-26 season will be remembered as legends with their cup heroics not tarred by the disappointment of relegation. For Fraser, the possibility of the shine being taken off the cup triumph was a thought which played on his mind in recent weeks, one he is delighted to have put to bed. And he said, "Without a doubt, it would have taken a shine off it. I've had it in my head all week about how big a high we had in December and how good it was. Our form after that has not been good enough. We were still in the mix come the split, but our performances were not enough to keep us in the league at that point. We knew we had to do the business, and this season will be talked about because of the cup, and I am absolutely delighted about that. Nobody is going to remember this game in 5 years' time, but they are going to remember we won the cup. Those are the things you think about when you're driving into training, and stuff like that," added Fraser on the potential for a squad picture to be added to the stadium wall, alongside other cup-winning St Mirren sides after staving off relegation. And he added, "You don't say it to anyone, but you know it can put a dent on what you had done for the club. You don't want to be part of that. You want to be in the good times. And thankfully, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've been part of some really good times with St Mirren. This season has been a wee bump in the road, but that always comes up. It's about how you handle it, and we've handled it and can now enjoy our summer." Now Vice-Captain Fraser will enjoy some overdue time off in Glasgow with his family over the summer. The defender's season was feared to be over weeks ago due to a broken collarbone, but the St Mirren vice-captain played through the pain barrier against the wishes of the specialist and initially his family. And he said, "At the time, I spoke to Jerry Docherty, the physio. It was high risk at that time. I had a conversation with Craig McLeish prior to the Dundee game, and it was a case of, if I'm needed, I'm happy to come on and do whatever I can for the team. As the weeks pass, that high risk gets lower and lower, and as I sit here, I am clear of my timescale. I told my wife on the Friday before the Kilmarnock game that I was playing, and she was basically asking, "Why are you doing that?" I just said, "I want to," and that was the end of the conversation. After that, she backed me, and she is behind every decision I make. It's probably a bigger scare for your family and your friends, but thankfully, I was feeling strong at the time. Evening Times Sport, May 28. Gavin Harper says, genuine contenders Glasgow cannot afford to choke when Connacht visit. When Connacht arrive in Glasgow for the URC quarter-final at Scotstoun tomorrow night, the stakes could hardly be higher. Victory would send Franco Smith's side into a third consecutive semi-final and keep alive the tantalising prospect of a second title in 3 seasons, and with home advantage of a kind still in their favour. However, defeat to the in-form Irish province would cast this campaign in a far harsher light. A season that has promised so much would suddenly be framed by another missed opportunity. They have let one huge opportunity slip away already this year when they lost to Toulon in the Champions Cup quarter-final. Glasgow can ill afford to waste another golden ticket. I was in Belfast 2 weeks ago to see if Glasgow could secure the win they needed to finish top of the league. As has been the way for long spells in the second half of the season, the Warriors were not at their free-flowing best, but when they needed to find a way to grind out a result, they duly delivered. And one of the most encouraging aspects was that when their backs were against the wall, with only a handful of minutes to go, it was not Sion Tuipulotu or Kyle Steyn, world-class talents who we all know are capable of changing a game, who delivered a moment of magic. Instead, Yair Oguntibuji got Glasgow moving before Rory Sutherland picked a clever line to put Ulster on the back foot, with Ali Miller continuing the move. Then there was a moment of brilliance as Dan Lancaster's offload put Glasgow away, and Ewan Ferry executed a perfect 2-on-1 to send Kyle Rowe over in the corner. It was a try that summed up this Glasgow Warriors side perfectly. There are no shortage of game changers, and the return of George Horne has restored one of the most potent to the mix. But their super strength, to borrow an in-vogue phrase, is the sum of their parts. Rowe's try ultimately secured their first win in Belfast since 2013 and top spot in the league, giving Glasgow a glorious chance in the playoffs. It was well documented that they will be at Murrayfield for the semi-finals should they get past Connacht this weekend, and could even be back at the home of Scottish rugby for the grand final should they qualify. But the stats are not weighted heavily in favour of Steyn's side going all the way. Only once before in the URC's history, albeit short, has the side who finished top of the regular season table gone on to win the title. Glasgow will take solace in the fact that was Leinster 12 months ago, showing a home run can be beneficial. But let's not jump too far ahead. There is plenty of time to talk about contesting the final, or what another title may mean for the club and the sport in the city dominated by football. For any of that to be relevant, Glasgow must get past a Connacht side who have lost just once since January, and finished the regular season with a comfortable win over Edinburgh. There appears to be an acceptance from those at Scotstoun that Glasgow looked too far into the distance when their Champions Cup quarter-final rolled around last month. There too the Warriors had done the hard work to ensure home advantage through the knockout stages. Assistant coach Scott Forrest said this week, "I think everyone's got a good understanding of what needs to be done, and I think the first thing is not looking too far ahead. We've already lost in the quarter-final of one competition this season, which hurt a lot." Glasgow also lost the most recent meeting between the sides, as a last-minute Sean Jansen try snatched victory for Connaught in Galway in February. There should be no underestimating the visitors. However, Glasgow do not lose many at home, and Connaught have never won at Scotstoun in the 14 years it has served as the Warriors' home. Few statistics better illustrate the importance of home advantage heading into tomorrow night's quarter-final. The challenge now for Glasgow is proving they have learned from Toulon. Talent has never been the issue under Smith. On their day, few sides in the URC can live with the pace, ambition, and attacking quality the Warriors possess. The question is whether they can handle expectation. That is what makes tomorrow night feel so significant. This is no longer a side that's sneaking up on opponents or exceeding predictions. Glasgow have been champions, are the top seeds, and must be considered genuine contenders again. Those tags will bring pressure, and it is why winning ugly in Belfast mattered. The ability to grind out a result can often separate contenders from champions, but that alone will not be enough against a Connaught side arriving with momentum and freedom. Glasgow have spent all season putting themselves in this position. Now comes the hard part, proving they are ready to take advantage of it. Scotstoun has become a place where Glasgow expect to win. There have been some stunning nights on Danes Drive in the 4 years since Smith took charge of the Warriors. Another tomorrow would do just nicely, because if Glasgow let another opportunity slip through their fingers, this season will no longer be remembered for finishing top of the league or an unbeaten Champions Cup pool stage run. Instead, it will be remembered as the campaign in which a hugely talented side failed to deliver when the pressure was greatest, says Gavin Harper. Evening Times Sport, May 28. Neil backed to thrive under pressure at Rangers. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Dan Neil will have no difficulty coping with the pressure of representing Rangers if the Ibrox club sign the out-of-contract Sunderland defensive midfielder this summer, according to Scotland striker George Hirst. The 8 times capped forward played alongside Neil during the second half of the 25-26 season, when the 24-year-old joined Ipswich Town on loan, and he was impressed with his teammates' performances. The former England under-20 international played 17 games for the Portman Road club this term, and helped them finish second in the Championship and clinch promotion to the Premier League. Speaking during a break from preparations for the World Cup warm-up friendly against Curacao at Hampden on Saturday, Hirst expressed confidence the South Shields-born player will flourish wherever he moves this summer. And he said, "Dan is a quality player, and I cannot say a bad word about him as a guy either. He came to us in January and fitted in straight away. He's playing for Sunderland, having come through their academy, and they're another big club. That area is football mad. You're either Sunderland or Newcastle. So that in itself comes with a pressure, so Dan has grown up used to having it. On the ball he's excellent, as he's tidy and clean, and off the ball he does the dirty stuff as well. I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know where he'll end up going, but whoever gets him will be lucky to have him. Meanwhile, Hurst has paid tribute to Kieran McKenna, the Ipswich manager, who was linked with a move to Celtic in October after getting named in the Scotland squad for the World Cup, and expressed hope he will remain in charge in East Anglia for some time to come. Hurst believes he is only playing international football because of the influence of the Northern Ireland Irishman who led Ipswich to the third promotion of his 5-year tenure this month, and national team counterpart Steve Clarke. They've both been absolutely brilliant for me in different ways, he said. The gaffer here gives me that straight-talking attitude. He tells me, this is what you offer, this is what I see you offering, and you need to do that. I've always enjoyed that. That was the way my dad, the former Sheffield Wednesday and England striker, was with me, always straight to the point and not mincing his words. Kieran at Ipswich has transformed me as a player. I've had 3.5 years now, and I genuinely believe I wouldn't be sitting here now if it wasn't for him and the work he's put in with me. Both are different managers, but they have an incredible way of doing things. Both of them work, as you've seen with the success Steve has had here and what Kieran has done at Ipswich. There's no right or wrong way. Both managers have their own way of doing it, and they've both been successful. You see the links with Kieran because no one lives under a rock, but I'm delighted that he's still with us. Hopefully he can stay longer and make me an even better player. For Ipswich will always be a better club with him as a manager. Meanwhile, Hurst has predicted that having 5 strikers in the Scotland squad will drive up the intensity in training and friendly games against Curacao and Bolivia, ahead of the World Cup opener against Haiti in Foxborough next month. Clarke has also called up Che Adams of Torino, Lyndon Dykes of Charlton, Lawrence Shankland of Rangers and Ross Stewart of Southampton for the finals. And Hurst said, there's healthy competition among the strikers, and that's needed, because there is a group of us who all want to play against Haiti. Without that, you probably don't get the same level in training or have the same drive. But when you know there's plenty of strikers who are capable of playing in that game, it's up to you to show why it should be you. That's something you have to embrace. Every striker in the squad has got a lot of strengths. We've probably all got slightly different strengths. There are strikers in this squad who will fit any sort of eventuality. I provide a little bit of pace up there. I've got the height as well. If he sees me for a certain game, then brilliant. I'm going to be there and ready to be called upon, whenever that is. Whether that's for 1 minute, whether that's for 90 minutes. Whoever the gaffer picks is who the gaffer picked. We're all more than capable of making a massive difference. Like I say, we've all got different strengths. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, May 28. Shankland key part of new blueprint for Rangers, says Joshua Barry. When Lawrence Shankland flew to Spain to meet up late with Hearts' pre-season camp last summer, joining after protracted contract talks dragged into July, it looked as though the door had closed on a dream move to Ibrox. Little did he know that 10 months later, Rangers would be plotting his transfer in the same country. It was a common, although speculative view last summer that Shankland was waiting on a call from his boyhood club that never came. That belief runs beyond the last 12 months. This year, with Rangers taking advantage of a break clause in the 3-year deal Shankland signed at Hearts last summer, a long-running saga was brought to a close. Shankland flew back early from a holiday in Portugal on Sunday and completed a medical on Tuesday morning, with the bank holiday on Monday delaying the process. The striker completed in-house media duties before joining his Scotland teammates ahead of the World Cup last night. It was during the club's pre-split training camp that a move for the Hearts captain gathered pace, we understand. Once the opportunity of his break clause arose, there was agreement around the table that this simply made sense. A little over a month on, Shankland is a Rangers player and will join officially when the window opens in mid-June, having signed a 2-year deal with the option of an additional 12 months. It feels a wee bit like a long time coming, to be honest, with the number of times I have been rumoured with it. I'm just delighted to get it done and be a Rangers player, he said, beaming in a Rangers TV interview after taking the number 7 shirt, with a nod to some of those who have worn it previously: Claudia Canadia, Shota Arveladze, more recently Yanis Hagi, most notably Davy Cooper. For all parties, this has been a long time coming. Why has Shankland only just joined Rangers? There is a mixture of opinions as to why it has taken Rangers until now to sign Shankland. At times, board members raised the topic themselves before the regime change. Some would point to timing not aligning. In the summer of 2024, for example, a move was seriously considered. However, with money not exactly flowing, a deal for Hamza Egaman having already been agreed, and the squad containing 2 forwards of a similar age, Cyril Dessers and Danilo, circumstances did not work. Last summer was a different story. Under Kevin Thelwell and Russell Martin, Rangers pivoted away from the Scottish market, choosing not to progress with a deal to sign Josh Mulligan for free. They were well aware of Shankland running his contract down at Tynecastle, but as an approach materialised, the 29-year-old chose to stay in Gorgie and work under Derek McInnes. Last season he played some of his finest football of his career, also scoring a crucial goal in the 4-2 win over Denmark to help serve Scotland to the World Cup. Some have stated that past managers favoured a different profile at the sharp end of the pitch, especially in relation to leading a press and scaling up to European matches. Crucially, with managers often holding the final say on recruitment in years gone by, it has perhaps been too little too late in realising the value of a player like Shankland in Scotland. That speaks to a larger point. Who is the ultimate decision-maker in transfer decisions? Rangers sources now suggest that the head coach will fit into a wider club strategy and, while playing an important role in shaping the squad, will not act as the sole architect. There is perhaps a recognition, after a season where the club pivoted from a footballing fundamentalist to a Red Bull coach in one campaign, that a general direction must be followed. The absence of a sporting director for over 2 years left the man in the dugout as the ultimate football authority. While that balance was corrected on paper last summer, the scale of work undertaken and the dynamic of appointing Martin kept recruitment heavily influenced by the head coach Joe Rothwell, Max Aarons, and Jaden Mahoma, all being examples. The transfer strategy and picture at Ibrox this summer looks very different to last year, with Jim Gillespie, CEO, Greta Steinson, 49ers Technical Director Stig Inns Bornby, a football consultant who is expected to remain beyond his 6-month spell, Dan Purdy, Technical Director, and manager Danny Rowe, all at the top table. Chairman Andrew Kavanagh spends the majority of his working life focused on Rangers, and while Parag Marath is no longer formally on the board, his contact with the chairman is understood to be daily. Signing Shankland speaks to some lessons being learned at a club level. Instead of Rowe moulding the squad in his image, and Rangers being forced to play catch-up if the project fails, there is talk of backing a project more than putting all eggs in one managerial basket and committing to a game model over a period of time. That is not to say that Rowe was not on board with this move. Far from it. For the split fixtures confirmed to him that, to get over the line, greater leadership and experience are required on the pitch. Speaking to German media last week, he said, "We are well aware that the team needs leaders. You cannot meet the demands with just young players." The head coach held positive talks with Shankland in the past week. It was in Spain, during the pre-split camp in mid-April, when daily planning meetings took place between club leadership and the head coach, that this transfer developed. Rangers knew that the 3-year deal Shankland had signed the previous summer would allow them to exploit a break clause if they moved early. While on the training pitch, Rowe was trying to fine-tune a template to win a league title that would not arrive. A large chunk of that week was spent planning for the future, with Gillespie only in the building for around a month. Kavanagh arrived with a belief in the need to restructure the player leadership group and recruit leaders. Gillespie, Purdy, Steinson and Bornby were present too. It was here that a move for Shankland gathered pace. Rangers returned to a focus on the Scottish market. Rangers returned to the focus on the Scottish market when appropriate targets arrive is founded on learning from the last year. The first 12 months of United States ownership has been filled with sharp learning curves, and much like the move away from empire-building executives in Thelwell and former CEO Patrick Stewart to a wider approach, there is recognition, it seems, that without a core group to build around, the club will be building a squad on sand. Until you fix the culture on the pitch and leadership in the dressing room, no coach will succeed. That was Kavanagh's developing view as last season played out. While Rowe was not infallible for Rangers' post-split collapse, not even his harshest external critic would argue over his squad's lack of natural leaders. Speaking recently on the club's developing transfer strategy, Kavanagh said, "Our focus in building the squad will be less about raw talent and more about things like chemistry, leadership, steel, and footballing IQ." Having worn the armband at Hearts for 2 seasons and entering the peak of his career, Shankland is one arrival that should help to correct that. Rangers saw in the forwards' record a proclivity to score in big games and at big moments. Shankland's recent goal and strikes against themselves, Celtic, Motherwell and Hibs during the split, demonstrate that. Rowe's system also holds a more obvious place for Shankland, given that the club seems to be trending towards playing with 2 strikers domestically than previous setups. capable of leading the line or operating in the pockets just behind as a link option. There is a belief that a trio of Shankland, Ryan Naderi and Yusuf Chermiti offers a range of complementary profiles. The new arrival's game has developed from his early days as a poacher. Shankland is both a striker who can help build up play and find the back of the net. One source explained that Shankland will understand what it means to carry the weight of the jersey and transmit that to new signings. He understands the pressures and expectations. There is a belief that after 3 20-goal seasons at Hearts, he can make the desired impact now and form part of a new leadership group that will be rebuilt over the summer. Shankland completes a long journey to Ibrox. Shankland's mother arrived at the Rangers training ground this week with photos of a young Lawrence in multiple Rangers kit. Having been released after a long trial with the club as a 12-year-old, this marks a full-circle moment for a player who should be entering the peak of his career. While at Queen's Park under the tutelage of now interim academy head at Ibrox, Davy McCallum, in the youth setup, Shankland worked at the McAlpine factory in Hillington, southwest Glasgow. From an underwhelming spell at Aberdeen, after being handed his chance in the top flight, to responding with so many goals at Ayr United, to a difficult season in the top flight with Dundee United during the COVID period, before joining Belgian club Beerschot, and then scoring 88 goals for Hearts. Ibrox has always been the North Star, the dream. Shankland's career is a story of late development, hard work and graft. Ian McCall, his former manager at Ayr, once tried to convince Stephen Gerrard and Gary McAllister to sign Shankland over a meal at ubiquitous Chip in the West End, as Kavanagh sat next to Tony Bloom at Tynecastle and watched the forward lose his man, steal a march, and score beyond Jack Butland in Hearts' 2-1 win over Rangers on May 4. He knew that soon roles would reverse. Shankland said after his unveiling, "There are a lot of Rangers players that come and go over the years, and if you are not successful, you are forgotten about pretty quickly." Now there, having climbed the mountain back home, Shankland will want to leave a legacy, because as one journey ends, another is just beginning, says Joshua Barry. Evening Times Sport, May 28. Scotland World Cup hurricane warning issued. Report by Mark Walker. Members of the Tartan Army have been handed a warning from Miami authorities ahead of their World Cup showdown against Brazil because the area is entering its hurricane season. And they've also been told to forget about any traditional fans' marches to the game because of the extreme heat and humidity. Scotland fans will travel in huge numbers for their first appearance at a World Cup for 28 years, with the final group stage game against the South American superstars in Florida. But the region is on high alert at this time of year because hurricane season officially starts on June 1 and has famously wreaked havoc and destruction in the past during the time the World Cup is on. And Scotland fans were name-checked by authorities to take special care because they are not used to the weather phenomenon. Miami-Dade Department of Emergency Management Director Pete Gomez said, "We are very concerned and we want to get the message out. We have fans coming from Scotland, Portugal, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Uruguay and Colombia who will not know what a hurricane is and what it can do. Our emergency preparedness team have had about 32 meetings a week to prepare for the games, and we have had plenty of disaster drills. If God forbid it happens, we need to have a plan, and we do." and the Tartan Army have also been told to forget about staging any marches ahead of their showdown with Brazil at the Hard Rock Stadium because of the extreme heat and humidity. Greg Terp, Director of Public Safety and Security for Miami Host Committee, said, "A lot of fans, like Scotland for example, have big marches and it's a huge part of the event for them. We are trying to talk to these groups ahead of time because they don't understand the weather and the humidity and what it can do to them." And the United States government's warning coordination meteorologist for Miami, Robert Garcia, admitted they will have to work hard to get their message out, and added, "This is the first time we have supported such a huge event in hurricane season. We have to assume people will be imbibing. So in our messaging, we need to be louder, significantly louder, to explain the need for hydration and the risk of the heat." Meanwhile, Scotland striker George Hist has revealed he has started doing hot pod yoga in a bid to prepare himself for the stifling conditions which Scotland will encounter. Stephen Naismith, the national team's assistant coach, has been heavily involved in the preparations for the finals, and he admitted that high humidity will be a major issue for Andy Robertson and his teammates. Scotland will play their opening two Group C matches against Haiti and Morocco in the Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, and then take on that Brazil game in the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens. Temperatures for all of the games are expected to approach 30 degrees Celsius, while the humidity looks set to top 70%. Hurst, the Ipswich Town striker, who is hoping to win his 9th international cap in the warm-up friendly against Curacao at Hampden on Saturday, knows that adapting to the conditions will be crucial to Scotland's chances of success. And he said, "I got into hot pod yoga 2 weeks ago because I was trying to find something that would get me used to the heat out there. I'm not a massive fan of the heat, so it's been good. It's as simple as it sounds. It's normal yoga in a tent that's 40 degrees hot. It's not easy, but I love it. I've started to really enjoy it, and I'll probably carry it on after the tournament." Hurst last played his last game for Ipswich, whom he helped to get promoted back to the Premier League this season, on May 2, and he is optimistic that getting a break from competitive football will help to ensure that he is in peak condition, both physically and mentally, when the World Cup gets underway. And he continues, "There's pros and cons with both playing and not playing, to be fair. I think I've had the opportunity to not only have a little physical rest, but a little mental rest as well. Because the Championship, with 46 games a season, games on Saturday and Tuesday, is hard on your body, and is probably even harder on your mind at times. I still have had a couple of weeks where I have been at the training ground, still doing my work, still doing my hot pod yoga, has been nice. I have been able to do that without any real pressure on my shoulders. I can enjoy it and relax a little bit mentally. But at the same time, the lads who've just finished are going to be right at it and sharp as ever. They've had a game last week, so there's definitely pros and cons for both. I'm happy with the rest that I've had, and the work I've been doing. I'm still raring to go." Evening Times Sports, June 1. Celtic ladies end Derby hoodoo to claim cup. Rangers 0, Celtic 1. Report by Alison McConnell. As Emma Lawton strode across the technical area, threw off her shirt and screamed in frustration, The smart money would have been on Rangers continuing their long winning sequence against Celtic. By that stage of the game, approaching the hour mark, Lawton's dismissal for a second foul in quick succession felt like it would be pivotal. Clinging to a one-goal lead that came via Morgan Cross against a team they have been spooked by across recent seasons, as Rangers dominated possession, it looked like a familiar pattern was emerging. That Celtic bucked the trend to end their Rangers jinx with a 1-0 win at Hampden, as they signed off for the season with the Scottish Gas Women's Scottish Cup, means that Grant Scott claims the first silverware of his tenure at the club, and Celtic's first trophy since they won the league in 2024. Where they go with it will be interesting. It was a first win over Rangers for Celtic since March 2024, a sequence that stretched to a 12-game run, and a run that made for a perennial line of questioning in the build-up to these games. "It's never been something I've carried," said Scott. "I think mentally for the players, it maybe lingers around, but we were focused every time we played Rangers. I never thought there was ever an indication that we couldn't do it. Look, it's a non-story now. We move on. We know that we can challenge every team out there. We've beaten every single team at the top of the league to win the trophy. That is the positive we can take out of today." Rangers' numerical disadvantage was insufficient to take them over the line on a day when they dominated much of the ball, but failed to create too many genuine chances in front of goal. Celtic were tenacious and industrious, as they restricted Rangers, working their socks off to close down space and get on top of players, all the more so following Lawson's dismissal. For Leanne Crichton, it is a first season in charge at the club that ends empty-handed, and Rangers' first campaign without a trophy since 2021. The Ibrox side remained on the park to see Celtic lift the cup in front of their own small band of supporters, while the parting from their rivals' dressing room could be heard as Rangers conducted their post-match press duties. Said Crichton, "On 3 occasions now the group have been super respectful to the opposition. That is something that we pride ourselves on. Win or lose, we will show that respect, but 100% it should fuel the fire. No one wants to stand pitch-side and watch the biggest rival lift silverware, something that you felt you could have gone and won yourself. The players watched that, they suffered, and it will be with them as a lasting memory of the season. And it is how they digest that. The one thing you cannot coach in football is character, and it is up to the players now to go and recognise that, process it, and see how they respond." Crichton made changes to the team, who were humbled by Glasgow City last weekend, with the experience of Cathy Hill brought in alongside the exuberance and the energy of Mia Macaulay. The youngster was the closest that Rangers came all day to finding a breakthrough, with her menace in forward areas troubling at points for Celtic. She whacked an effort off the post after just 11 minutes and proceeded to be at the heart of any forward incursions that Rangers made. She was central to a late shout for a penalty in the closing moments of the game. Claire Walsh got a foot in, and with VAR in operation there was a tense wait to hear if there would be a trip to the monitor. Macaulay could be seen screaming at referee Abby Henry that she had been tripped, but the whistler was having none of it. Said Crichton, "I thought it looked 50-50. I would need to see it back. It was a game we dominated, and we think we should have got something from it, but it is what it is. We had VAR team, and if there was something to be seen, the VAR team and Abby would come to the right decision. There were few genuine chances for either team. Macaulay forced a number of saves from Celtic goalkeeper Adelaide Gay, while the opener came from the tenacity of Swarzy Noonan. The Republic of Ireland striker, who may well have played her last game for the club, fought for the ball on the edge of the box. She delivered a cross towards the back post, with Cross drifting in ahead of Nicola Doherty to convert from close range. Macaulay tried to restore parity with an effort that was held at the second attempt, as Rangers continued to ask questions of the Celtic defence. Brookshire whipped in a free kick on top of the Celtic goalkeeper. As the opening period came to a close, Macaulay again took aim, with Gay once more denying her. It was the story of the afternoon. Lawton's dismissal inevitably meant Celtic retreated deeper, but they still had a couple of chances to further their lead, most notably when Jenny Smith forced Fife to dive and parry an effort. Lawton was emotional as she emerged from the tunnel at full time, embracing her teammates and dancing on the pitch. Her joy seemed to encapsulate the slim margins that so often characterise any cup finals. The Celtic manager Grant Scott believes that this Scottish Cup win can be pivotal for the Parkhead side as they look to challenge for the SWPL title next season. The league campaign has been a write-off for Celtic after they finished fifth, with a poor post-split run fueling the slip down the table. That frustration is not as biting as it might have been given yesterday's Hampden triumph, and the fact they beat all four teams who are above them to win the trophy is something that Scott wants his side to take into next season, when he said, "These are special moments when you celebrate with your staff and your players, and I am delighted for this team. We have been off it in the league. Knowing we've beaten the four teams above us in the league to win the trophy tells you there is real character about the team, and hopefully now there's belief. At times we have questioned each other as a group, but I see the players every day, and I don't think there is a lack of belief. We just needed to show it, but we showed it today, and I am delighted for everyone involved." Historically, teams that play well in cup competitions and win have something about them. That's what I want to instill in the players and give them energy and belief to do these things against any team at any point. It's a nice marker to show we can do it. Scott had tweaked the way Celtic lined up against Rangers, with Amy Gallagher pushed up, while Swarzy Noonan, who set up the opener, dropped into a deeper midfield role. And he continued, "Anyone who saw the last few performances against Rangers will know that was a completely different performance level from what we've achieved before. And we were disappointed with those performances, there's no getting away from it. But one of the things we asked them to do this week was get closer to their opponent, a little more dogged, commit the challenge in the nicest possible way, be more difficult to break down, and I thought we did that. We changed things a bit on the back of those defeats because we felt as though we had to do something different. The players deserve a lot of credit because they worked their sort off." Emma Lawton's dismissal might have tipped the game in Rangers' favour, although Scott had no real issues with the decision to send the Scotland international off after she tugged at Caliste Brookshire. And he said, "My immediate thought was that it was probably 2 bookings. The referee gave herself a bit of time before giving the second yellow, and it is a debate if in that moment she could have given the player a ticking off and say, 'You've just had a booking 2 minutes earlier, next one be careful.' But I don't think I can argue with it. She did not rush to her pocket. I think she assessed it pretty well. No complaints. From a game perspective, You know you're up against it. We got deeper on the pitch than I would have liked, but you know at that point you're going to need to dig in further and show character, resilience and quality in defence. And I thought we did all that. You have to ride your luck at times, but in the main I thought we showed the right level of fight that I wanted from my team, and it's all credit to the players. Evening Times Sport. Glasgow Warriors clinch semi-final spot, reports Gavin Harper. Glasgow Warriors booked their place in the United Rugby Championship semi-finals, but were pushed all the way for their victory 33-21 over Connaught at Scotstoun. The visitors took an early lead when Captain Prendergast burrowed over inside 5 minutes, with Sam Gilbert converting. Glasgow's response was swift as they set up camp in the Connaught 22 before Patrick Schickerling fought across the line. The visitors then lost prop Sam Illo to the sin bin, but Glasgow were unable to capitalise, and upon his return Connaught had the better of the game, but could not convert their possession into more points, and it remained level at the break. Glasgow took the lead for the first time when Captain Kyle Stein crossed early in the second half, and Josh Mackay then added a third score, with Horn's conversions giving the hosts a 21-7 lead, before Connaught again hit back through Dave Hefferman. But Year Oguntibuju's solo score proved crucial, as Glasgow booked their place in the semi-finals, the 33-21, despite a late consolation score from Finlay Beelum. Here are 5 talking points from last Friday night's win. Super Stein shows the way. Not for the first time in the latter part of the season, Glasgow struggled to find their rhythm in attack, but just when they needed someone to step up, the captain duly delivered. Stein saved the hosts from falling behind, as Josh Eoin broke clear in the first half, then came up with 2 plays to turn the game in the hosts' favour. Firstly, he expertly exploited unmarked space out wide, with a 50-22 to give Glasgow an attacking chance, before then running a clever line to get on the end of Sion Tupulotu's wide pass to score, and put the Warriors ahead for the first time. It was fitting that he was the man to seal the deal with the hosts' 5th try late on. Crucial defensive interventions with Glasgow attack not firing in the first half. Connaught arrived in Glasgow full of confidence after a run of 8 wins from 9 games, and made an impressive start as they threatened the Glasgow line in the opening stages. Only outstanding work from the returning Scott Cummings and Jack Dempsey prevented the Irish side opening the scoring, but given the run of play there was little surprise when Prendergast did find a route to the Warriors' line. Glasgow hit back, but Connaught then enjoyed another period of pressure, and again it was only terrific defending from the hosts that kept them at bay, Rory Darge producing a magnificent breakdown penalty. Then from a Josh Eoin breakaway, Glasgow were bailed out by their captain as Stein tackle denied the Connaught fly half what appeared moments earlier to be a certain try. Just after Mackay's try had put Glasgow 21-7 ahead, the hosts again came up with a penalty as Connaught threatened to score. A perfect Scotstoun farewell for departing trio. Glasgow marked their final game of the regular season by bidding farewell to their summer leavers as Jack Dempsey, Hugh Jones, Adam Hastings, Jamie Batty, Johnny Matthews and Sion Velanu all head for pastures new. But for the trio involved in this win, It was a fitting Scotstoun finale to their Warriors' careers. Dempsey led from the front on both sides of the ball, as he has since arriving from the Waratahs, while Vailanu added a big impact from the bench. Matthews was his usually reliable self at the set piece. The only negative was that the hooker, a try-scoring sensation since he moved from Boroughmuir, was denied a score on his final Scotstoun appearance. Glasgow will need to find more if they are to repeat 2024 heroics. The Warriors have secured their place in a third straight semi-final, but if they are to see off either the Bulls or Munster and make it to another final, they will need a bit higher hits than they have managed for several weeks. The 2024 URC champions were outstanding in the first part of the season, but have dropped off in recent weeks, particularly in attack. Nevertheless, the mark of a good side is find ways to win when it is not plain sailing, and the Warriors are undoubtedly delivering in that regard. Horton injury a major worry. Glasgow came into this game missing Ben Afshar and Jamie Dobie, who was withdrawn after initially being pencilled in the line-up, and their scrum half stocks took a major hit when George Horn was forced off inside the final quarter. The Scotland scrum half was caught at the back of a ruck and struggled to use his right arm afterwards. He eventually succumbed to the injury, with Jack Oliver sent on. If Horn is not available for the semi-final on Saturday, it would be a huge ask for Oliver to step up. Glasgow will be desperately hoping Dobie comes through another week's training and can slot back in. Meanwhile, Murrayfield has been confirmed as Warriors' home venue for the United Rugby Championship semi-final and any potential final. With booking their place with that victory over Connaught, they are required to move out of their regular venue to make way for Commonwealth Games organisers. It was expected they would play any semi-final at the home of Scottish Rugby, and this has now been confirmed by tournament organisers. The URC have also confirmed that Murrayfield will be made available for the grand final should Franco Smith's side qualify. Meanwhile, the Scottish Rugby have introduced a new performance and pathway system within the women's programme. The aim is to enable Scotland to achieve as one from community to the international stage. The pathway is described as a single and aligned system that will aim to grow the game and to develop world-class talent, which the Union says will lead to success at grassroots, domestic and international levels. It has been introduced following a review led by Head of Women's Performance and Pathways, Andy Rees-Jones, and has 5 principles. These are to have one aligned and connected pathway from community to elite level, with defined objectives at each stage, to have strong foundations, investing in infrastructure and programs to enable long-term and sustainable success, to grow and strengthen the base, supporting clubs and schools to enhance player development, to accelerate development and provide targeted high-quality support for top players, and to create a collaborative and accessible system, and to remove barriers, enabling fluid entry and exit points, and to build shared ownership across stakeholders. Similar to the men's game, a new national talent pathway has been introduced, with 3 phases at the under-16, under-17 and under-18 ages, replacing regional training centres. Another addition is the National Academy programme, which will support the development of players aged 18 to 23. There will be dedicated leaders for both programs, with the further investment in the system seeking the appointment of Claire Cruikshank as the first Women's National Academy manager. Cruikshank, who was part of the Scotland coaching set-up in the recent Women's Six Nations, joins from Edinburgh Rugby, having also spent a lengthy spell in charge of Edinburgh University's women's programme. The final step in the pathway is the National Talent Pathway, which has been introduced with 3 phases at the under 16, under 17 and under 18 ages. This programme was established in August 2025 and based at Oriam, the programme which is led by national team coaches and provides a high-performance environment for the contracted players who will represent Edinburgh Rugby and Glasgow Warriors in the Celtic Challenge. Scottish Rugby Performance Director David Nucifora said, "This system is designed to ensure players are fully prepared to transition into Scotland women and meet the demands of the national environment. Our aspirations for the pathway is to see an increased quality of players across all levels, as well as an improved competitiveness of domestic pro teams. We have opportunities to prove ourselves on the world stage, both within the global series, as well as the Rugby World Cups in 29 and 33. Bringing in changes to our pathways now, at this stage in the World Cup cycle, is designed to put ourselves in the best place possible to excel at these tournaments." Rhys Jones added, "I am excited to see the new performance system and programmes get underway, and we will be announcing players involved in coming weeks. Bringing in experienced leaders like Claire Cruikshank is key to ensuring the success of these programmes, and I am confident that she will bring invaluable experience to the role." Meanwhile, a raft of Scotland internationals will leave their PWR clubs at the end of the season and are expected to take up central contracts with Scottish Rugby. Loughborough Lightning have confirmed 7 Scotland players will be leaving. Prop Christine Belisle, who retired from international rugby after earning a late call-up to last summer's Women's Rugby World Cup, will leave after 5 years, while fellow prop Anne Young, who missed the recent Women's Six Nations, is also confirmed among the leavers, alongside Leah Brebner-Holden, Ellis Martin, Lucia Scott and Becky Boyd, who did feature in Sean Vukofoka's first campaign as Scotland coach. The club confirmed last week that Helen Nelson, who stepped in as Scotland captain in the absence of Rachel Malcolm during the campaign, will depart with her next destination yet to be announced. Loughborough Lightning coach Nathan Smith said, "It's always a sad time of the year when we have to say goodbye to players. That is especially the case this year, as the changes to the centrally contracted Scotland internationals make it harder for those players to continue to play their rugby away from the Celtic Challenge, and I fully understand and respect the decision they have had to make." A further 3 Scotland caps will depart Bristol Bears. Emma Orr, who suffered an anterior cruciate ligament injury in the Six Nations win over Wales, and sisters Eliane and Rhea Clark. Former Scotland squad member Meg Varley will also leave Bristol and has announced her retirement from the game after a series of long-term injuries.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service